Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a tier list. I see so many tier lists about so many things on the internet, and I don't think people rank things effectively or correctly because they're not using the tier list correctly or effectively. So I'm going to explain to you guys how important each one of these ranks actually are, which ones that actually matter and which ones that actually don't. Let me jumble this up. Let me jumble. So I'm not starting off in any sort of particular order. Okay, this is good. Okay, start off with F tier. F tier, or depending on how big your tier list is, you know, that could be... One second. Let me turn this down just a little bit. F tier is actually really important. Whatever the bottom of your tier list is, whether it's F, E, or D, doesn't matter. The bottom of your tier list is actually super important. This lets people know what the absolute worst thing is in your tier list. So F tier is actually S tier. It's very important. F tier really matters. The worst thing you're talking about really matters. You have to let people know what the absolute dog water choice could be. Okay, C tier is actually A tier. C tier is the quintessential mid. It's not great, but it's not awful. So it's very important to any tier list, okay? Like, you need to know what's just okay. C tier is really almost important, almost as important as S. Then, of course, you have S tier. S tier is... I'll say S tier is more important than F tier, but only by a little bit. You need to know what the best choice is. I think it's self-explanatory. Everybody needs to know what the best and the worst choice is. Goes without saying, very important on a tier list. A tier is actually B tier. This is like, it's not quite as good as S, but why would you ever pick this over that? You know? C tier is much more important than A tier. A tier kind of gets forgotten. A tier is, you didn't quite make it, sorry. And that's okay, and that's why it's in B tier, which is not super important. E tier is an F tier, because second to the bottom is worthless. It just means you're really, really bad and nobody actually cares about you. There's really no point in there even being an E tier, so I would put that in the absolute bottom. B tier is C tier. It's kind of good, but it's not very good, and it's not shit. So nobody cares. Literally nothing in B tier will ever be picked by anybody. So the fact that something gets put into B tier just means that it's entirely forgettable. Entirely forgettable. Probably has like one super fan, and the rest of the people on the planet have completely forgotten whatever is in B tier exists. D tier, almost as bad as E tier. It just means that it's actual dog water, but it's not on fire dog water. D tier, nothing ever gets put into D tier though, because everything should only ever get put into the bottom two categories. So if anything's here, it should get moved. And there you go, guys. Easy peasy. That's your tier list. So this is something that I thought about doing the other day, and I thought it was very funny. I don't know if you think it's very funny, but I think it's incredibly funny. So just remember, if you're ever looking at a tier list, S and F are the most important. C tier is the second most important tier on any tier list. A tier is forgettable. B is forgettable. E and D shouldn't even fucking exist. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.